I'm Alan Harding, and I want to thank you all for coming on this almost summer night. We'll get there eventually. We'll have a number of speakers tonight, so I thought it would make some sense just to introduce them, so when they come up, wherever they go, that you'll know who they are. Matt Sullivan, Planning Director for Town of Wolfeboro. Linda Murray, the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Denise Roy Palmer is the Executive Director of WETCO. Mary DeVries is the Director of the Wolfeboro Chamber of Commerce. Kathy Eaton does everything. Driving trolleys and doing one hell of a good job for us, the PDC. Kathy Bernard is the Chairman of the Planning Board, and Kathy Tetro is over here representing the Governor Wentworth School District. I want to thank the sponsors of this session tonight, the Wolfeboro Inn, Meredith Village Savings Bank, Leone, McDonald and Roberts, WEDCO, which is Wentworth Economic Development Corporation, Wolfeboro Trolley. Before we get rolling here, I want to read the mission statement for the Economic Development Committee. Our mission is to identify opportunities to enhance the economic growth and opportunity of the Wolfeboro community and to encourage actions to achieve economic health while balancing the town's environmental, character, and culture. The EDC was established and appointed by the Board of Selectmen in 1992 and serves in an advisory role as a bridge between the public and private sectors. And what we want to encourage is the business community coordinating with us and telling us your good parts, wrong problems, so that we can work with you to rectify them and grow. That's what we want to do, and we can't do it unless we know what's on your minds and what's on our minds. Our meetings are open, and if you'd like to be on a list for when the meetings are held, we'd be glad to do that. Okay, we'll start off with the BR&D program overview.
Yep.
And that's going to be Denise and her team.
All I can say is, I personally never knew that when the Economic Development Committee first started considering this concept of working with UNH Cooperative Extension to do this program back in 2014, that we'd still be here today continuing to work, and that effort that all of the volunteers, all of the businesses that put in is still continuing, and is even being reflected in the master plan that's currently under review. One thing I would like to do is, I'm going to call different groups of people that were involved, so we'll know a little bit more about who the leadership team was, who are the people that did some of the interviews, and also the businesses that were interviewed. So let me start with, who are all the volunteers that were on the task force or the leadership team? Would you raise your hand? Okay, are there any others? Okay. Who are the ones that did the interviews? Because we had almost 90 people volunteering to do interviews. Interviews? Okay, interviewees? Okay, and how about the businesses that were interviewed? Can you all raise your hands, all the businesses that were interviewed? Okay, so we have a good turnout here, but we have a lot more out there that could have been here. So that just gives you an idea of the people that were involved, the amount of work that happened, and also I just would like you to know that of all of the communities that undertook this project with UNH Cooperative Extension, this community should be very proud of what it's accomplished and what it's continuing to do, because our program is very, very successful. Portsmouth did it. There's a couple of towns in the southern New Hampshire that were neighboring communities that partnered to do it together that didn't work out very well. There's other towns that just didn't go forward with it whatsoever. So the community should be really proud of themselves and the work that was done and the work that continues to be done with this program. So that's the end of my spiel.
So I am here representing what was the Two-Way Communication and Digital Footprint Committee, and that was made up of former town manager David Owen and Kathy Bernard, myself, business owner Cindy Patton, and we sometimes had a guest at our meeting, which was fun, including Jim O'Donnell, who since then has been appointed as a member of the Economic Development Committee as well. So as from the results of the BR&E survey, our focus that we were asked to do, what we were asked to focus on was how and if we need to improve the communication between the town of Wolfeboro and the business community on what's happening, what's in new development, basically anything happening with Town Hall. And then also to look for ways that we can help the collective community enhance its digital imprint. So what we did was we looked at the wolfeboronh.us, which is the town's website, and looked at the information that is there. The town of Wolfeboro invested in making some improvements and changes to wolfeboronh.us, and here you go. This is actually a copy of a flyer that our committee developed, and to reach a broader audience on what we were trying to do, one thing we did with this flyer was mail it with the municipal electric department bills that went out, just to try to reach another target. We created the opportunity for businesses who were looking to add to their online presence by being linked on an additional website, to have that ability to do that on wolfeboronh.us. And we wanted to tell people that if they want to know what's coming up, for example, for a public hearing, you can go to wolfeboronh.us and go to minutes and agendas. Some of the other things that we looked at on here were the links to various resources within the community. So again, we looked at what was on there and then added some information to each of those links. So not all the businesses who had the opportunity to be published on there chose to, and there's all kinds of reasons for someone not wanting to or deciding to do that. It's just a part of everybody's individual marketing plan. Our job was to get the information out there on what was available, and we did determine that this is a comprehensive website. If you are someone in the business community who wants to know what the planning board has coming up on their agenda, what the Board of Selectmen is discussing, what someone has for new development and there will be a public hearing on. Right now, for example, you can go and look and see that it is your chance to file for candidacy right now. In fact, it ends tomorrow. So if you want to be in an elected position possibly after March, it's not too late to do that. So that's what we did with the communication piece. I will add that the Chamber of Commerce in the town of Wolfeboro has always over the years looked at ways that we can be a resource for each other, and through this we did identify as well that we can look to the Chamber's Government Relations Committee as a resource to also communicate what is happening at Town Hall. And some examples of that are with the Center Street construction project. The Public Works Department would, on a regular basis, whenever they made a public announcement that they were distributing themselves, of course, everywhere, they would also give it to the Chamber of Commerce, and we would distribute it as well with a link for anyone receiving that to go ahead and share it. So just trying to reach as many people as possible. And most So we also have expanded that thanks to some of our state representatives to try to get as much information on local government as possible out to you, so that as business people, you can take action on your own behalf when you see that something is concerning you, either something that could have a favorable impact on your business or not. And also, you can have the chance to go to those elected officials or whoever you choose to go to and ask them to speak on your behalf as well. So the other piece of this is the digital footprint, and there were a lot of people involved before our committee even got together in this way that looked at, oh my gosh, there are more businesses located in Wolfeboro who are not in search engines than there are. And so how do we help businesses find those tools so that they can too be found easily in search engines such as Google? And in a cooperative effort, the Chamber and the town held a couple of workshops that were open to the public, and how to get your business online was one of them. So that's basically what we did. I think that's all I had to say about that, or was asked to talk about. I think that's it. All right, so I'm going to turn things over to Linda Murray. All right.
The survey pointed out that Wolfeboro businesses wanted more special events to take place. So the special event committee took on 2 different projects, and we formed 2 different committees. The first one was the Fisherville Committee. We had attempted Fisherville in 2016 and 2017. In 2016, we had 4 members on the committee, and the second year we had only 3. The major problem was weather and ice. The 2016 event, there was no ice. We had about 6 or 7 bob houses. We were down in the parking lot at the dockside area. We had food, and we had a tavern area where people could test out different beers. I would say we had 50 to 75 people who came through. In 2007, again, there was not enough ice. The wind was blowing 50 miles an hour. It was cold. We had fewer bob houses. We had the tavern area, but not even your hardcore drinkers came out. So we tried again in 2018, and we didn't have the ice, so it didn't take off. And there are no plans for Fisherville in 2019. What we do have coming, there is some new idea about maybe being able to freeze Back Bay. And if Back Bay, that's a place where there's usually not as much wind. So hopefully we can find something in that area to get in the snowy time of the year. The other group was the Last Night Wolfeboro, and that went off in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And you can see in 2016, we had no money. We were able to put on a scavenger hunt. We had the Children's Center sponsor wildlife encounters. Nolan's provided pizza and beverages to purchase. Again, the chamber put on wonderful fireworks for us. We did bingo. We did music and dance at the end, and that music and dance, we hardly had anybody there. So dance doesn't seem to work. We had as sponsors the Lake Motel, One Song World Project, Baron Major Appliance, WASR, and Black's Paper Store. But we put donation jars around. So when we started in 2017, we at least had some money from the donation jars, and we were able to get a grant from the Cape Park Memorial Fund that really funded 2017. We were able to be in 2 venues. We started again, we had a scavenger hunt. Then we had just Bob and Marlowe, interactive music and puppetry. We had a magician, a balloon man. Again, the chamber put on their fireworks. We had contra dancing, and our second venue was up at All Saints Church, where there was a spaghetti dinner. lasagna dinner. All of these events took place in the Great Hall. In 2018, we were in 4 different spots. We had money left over from the donation jars. We got $500 from the EDC to help us with this year. And so we were in the Great Hall. We had things over at the Congregational Church, Brewster, and again up at All Saints. So we started out around 10 o'clock, between 10 and 2, and we had the Great Hall. We had the Yum Yum shop brought gingerbread men, and the kids were able to decorate the cookies. We had the fire department there with hats. We had Balloon Man in one corner. We had face painting in another. We had games going on, and a scavenger hunt went out from that. 4 hours, families coming in and out, kids, and it was exciting for me because I saw the Great Hall the way I had always pictured it to be a center of activity for Wolfeboro. So then we started with interactive puppetry over at the Congregational Church. Then they came back for a magic show. Then they went back to the Congregational Church for bingo. Then back to wildlife encounters, again sponsored by the Children's Center at the Great Hall. Around 3 in the afternoon, there were teen games down at Brewster Boathouse. They did a teen dance, but again, the dance didn't take off, so I'm not sure that dances are a thing anymore. Again, beautiful fireworks by the Chamber. And All Saints Church had a spaghetti dinner, lasagna dinner again with an accordion player, and had 125 people there. A huge success. And then we ended again the night with contra dancing back at the town hall. This year we had sponsors from Black's Paper Store, AV Insurance, the Children's Center, Brewster Academy, New Hampshire Boat Museum gave us 2 tickets for their boathouse tour as a grand prize for bingo. And as always, the Park and Rec staff took care of all the games up in the Great Halls and found a lot of the staff to do that. We're already starting to plan for 2019. We'd like to put some kind of a music event on for adults. We're hoping to gradually grow each year and this become more of a main event in Wolfeboro and start attracting more people from out of town. In order to do that, we need 1, money, 2, a core group who's willing to organize it, and then volunteers on the day of the event. So and then if this goes off, we need to start looking at other events to take place in the winter.
Linda, how many people came through on that evening?
We were over 1,000 who took place in what happened, yeah. I think wildlife encounters is one of the big ones, and our capacity at the Great Hall was 300, and we had all 300 there.
So Kathy Eaton and I represent the Group Advertising Committee. One of the things that was pointed out in the survey that businesses thought would be helpful is if we had a cooperative advertising program. So we got together and serving on that committee, Michael Culver, Lauren Hammond, Sandy Willette, she's from Obistro, and Michael Culver, of course, the Wright Museum. Lauren Hammond at the time was curator of the Living Museum. Liz Baker McLean in Communications at Brewster Academy, Louise Horskin, the Wolfeboro Historical Society, and myself. We began meeting in October 2016. That's when the group advertising effort was designated as one of the 3 subjects that we would take on, hoping to start with small. As the UNH told us, keep it small, hopefully have the successes, and then move on to other issues on the survey. So we talked about, well, what does Wolfeboro want to be? And we looked at the different parts: an older audience, as a family destination, as a cultural destination. What are the different things that we have to offer? Attracting year-round residents and businesses. So what was that cooperative advertising thing about? And we chose to focus on the town's _1 industry, being tourism. We chose to choose the season that we would start with would be fall into winter. One of the things businesses emphasized is we need to spread out our dollars and get more people to come on a year-round basis, and trying to grow the town as a year-round destination. So we had lots of little things that we came up with, like it'd be great for every business to put a welcome sign in their window, to coordinate events that are happening with the businesses. For instance, when Brewster Academy has a visiting weekend, a family weekend, when they come, parents' weekend, that's the word I'm looking for. If everybody goes with Brewster colors, when it's homecoming weekend for Kingswood, everybody goes with those school colors and puts things in their windows. That's a communication thing, and have sales and things that are related to that. That was one of the ideas. So then when it came to getting together an actual co-op advertising program, we sent out mailings to all the businesses in town, and we chose to try to get into 3 fall issues of New Hampshire Magazine and North Shore Magazine with an image-style ad to attract fall and winter visitors. Now, we chose publications outside of our area, knowing that a lot of our businesses advertise in those that are closer to home. So we're trying to reach overnight people by getting in the southern part of the state, or statewide, and then North Shore of Massachusetts. They are not inexpensive places to advertise in. We invited Wolfeboro businesses to participate with their choice of the size of their contribution, $100, $250, or $500, based on what they thought the impact would have for you. We had 22 businesses which chose to participate. Here they are listed. Which actually, our goal was to raise $7,600. We raised just over that. 50% was realized with contributions totaling $3,950. We revised the program down to advertise only in New Hampshire Magazine's issues in the October, the November, and their December, their Christmas gift guide. So, and if we go on, and these are a little mixed up, I'm sorry, we're going to have to flip back and forth between the two. So Come Savor the Seasons was our theme for these ads, and this one was the one we ran for the October issue, which included all 4 seasons. This was the ad that we ran in November issue with Santa Claus and Christmas and skiing. And then if you flip back to the other one, Matt, this is the one we ran in the Christmas one, looking forward towards the Fire and Ice, the Wolfeboro Inn is their major event in February. Last night, and again, our outside recreational sports. So that's what we did for 2017 into 18. This year, we took a little different approach, and then I'm just going to come back and talk about reason we did not pursue that particular cooperative program. This year, the Economic Development Committee took some money, some of our advertising dollars, and dedicated it to that season, advertising in 2 publications which were a little more affordable than the magazine formats. One being the Hippo, which is sort of like the Laker of the southern part of the state, and over on the Seacoast Scene, and then along Route 16, which is published by the Laker. And we did, this is the ad that is running in the Hippo. It has been every week since the 15th of January. The special events, these are the calendar events, that changes every week. And then if you go to the other slide, Matt, this is the ad, and here's our quarter page here. This is only running for it because the Long Route 16 publishes in January and February. They're monthly. So this is what was in the January issue. Now this is the ideal of success in terms of what I think about, because the town of Wolfeboro paid for this quarter page, and the other 3 quarters were picked up by the businesses in town. And that's because Dan Smiley went out and called on those businesses and turned a quarter page into a full page, or whoever works for Dan did. So into a full page ad in along Route 16. So that's the ideal. And my thinking is that when we can take town money and then the business money cooperative together, then we put something out there that's like that. Now, the cooperative program we did was strictly money raised through the towns. Keep in mind that the town of Wolfeboro, through the Economic Development Committee, spends a total of, right now, $5,500 a year advertising outside the area in the summertime with publications like Yankee Magazine and we have done a Hippo some, and then we get into the Mill Falls Marketplace. And Meredith, help me out, Mary, if I'm forgetting something here, because we do that.
You have it covered.
They're pretty much
done
there.
some New Hampshire, some for business retention.
Business retention and expansion,
as
right,
well.
and relocation ads with New Hampshire Business Review, making sure we're in the book of lists. that were in some of those places, resources that all businesses in the state use, or people thinking about coming here. So I would like to point out that what we found just when we started that program a year ago, that the 22 businesses participated in, we realized that we were going to have a broad representation of businesses to really make that successful. The reality is we had about 6% of the businesses in town choose to participate. And these were some of the reasons that we found. Business owners and managers were more likely to sign up when they were contacted individually, if we picked up the phone or we stopped by to see them and explained to them what they were doing. We're a volunteer committee. It was not realistic for us to reach out to 300 businesses and do that. So a lot of people did not get a call, even if they got a letter. Some businesses said they would have participated if it had been in the summer when their business was open. We have to acknowledge the fact that even if we want to build on a year-round or wintertime, the reality is that a number of our business, not the majority, but we have quite a few businesses that are not open in the wintertime. Some businesses felt they were already participating in a cooperative advertising program through their chamber membership. So we had a clear confusion in terms of what the chamber is doing to promote on a cooperative advertising basis and what this program was. And so in talking with the chamber opted not to support the cooperative advertising program by putting their feelings behind that, and that had an impact on the number of businesses that did participate. We came away from that realizing that one of the things that we were taught by UNH was that you want to reach out to, before you start a program like this, and find out who else is doing something. And so the fact that there was a program there that we were not aware of and that could grow, these really need to be meshed together. So we really see that the conclusion of that committee was that there needs to be more collaboration, and that a successful cooperative marketing program would require collaboration between the chamber and paid staff on the part of the town or the businesses or the chamber to contact business individually and to coordinate the marketing design and placement. So we're not going to say that it wasn't successful. We're going to say that we know what else could be done to make it much more successful. But that's where we were with that. I see, too, the very positive effect of what happens here when the town and the businesses partner together, and we get a lot more bang for a buck there. So I'd say we're working in that direction. We still have more work to do from a business's point of view, and a lot of this has to come from the business sector. We're here to help, but we certainly, if no more than can we tell you how to run your business, we can't tell you how to run your marketing either. Okay, so now this is where we really want to, we're going to take it a little bit away from the Business Retention and Expansion Survey and Project. One of the things that was mentioned in that survey, and a number of these things that we're going to talk about now, end up being things that have been happening anyway, that are happening more. We want to update you on what's happened to them, but they aren't necessarily a result of specifically like these particular 3 committees which were designated out of that particular program. So first I'm going to call on Kathy Tetrow from the Governor Wentworth Regional School District, and she's going to fill you in on the cooperative educational programs involving the school systems and community college. Go for it, Kathy. And then we're going to go into a roundtable kind of thing where everybody's going to talk about these other subjects.
One of the things I was asked to do, obviously, is to talk to you about the relationship between the school district and the community colleges, which has been a long-standing partnership, mainly with Lakes Region Community College. We offer about 11 programs through our Running Start courses. What is a Running Start course? It's an opportunity for a student to earn high school credit while attending high school and college credit at Lakes Region Community College. Some of the courses that we offer are business accounting, foundations of education and careers in education, sanitation and safety for those who are in service industry like hotel and restaurant management, culinary arts, hospitality, LNAs, CNAs now, licensed certified nurses, assistants, science education, health terms, medical terminology education programs, and things like that. Some business, and there's a movie making. We've offered elementary Spanish before, and new this year we will offer a dual enrollment class, which means that it is not only a course that earns high school credit, but earns college credit that can be transferred to other colleges other than Lakes Region Community College. So it's an English class, so it can transfer to any class across the country. I know that you just might have read about that recently in the Granite State News, that is kicking off this semester with Lakes Region in that partnership. So our community colleges and the partnership that we share with them certainly is something that is going to benefit the economic development of this region, because a lot of the kids that take classes in Lakes Region Tech Center obviously are kids who are from this region, and many of which will, maybe go off to college and come back to the area, and would encourage that partnership with Lakes Region and other community colleges to expand. One in the region is Great Bay Community College down in the Rochester area, especially with the manufacturing aspects of it. Our welding and precision manufacturing courses are looking at partnerships with those schools and some local industries like Safran and TurboCam and things like that. So it's a work in progress, as anything is in education. It's a lifelong experience, and hopefully we will be able to expand that more in the future. Just as an aside, I would like to encourage all of you to come up to our CTE week in February, the 11th through the 15th. We will have a Career Tech Ed Day, which is open to the public on the 12th. If you have not received an invitation to set up a booth up there to talk to kids in the Tech Center and in the high school, I would encourage you to come up and talk to us about that. If you'd like to reach out to Sheila Foley in the guidance department, she will certainly make sure that you have a table available to you to come up and talk about your business and expand that information to our students. Thank you for listening to what I had to say tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Major issues that came out of the study was that our restrooms, our public restrooms, were determined to be poor to fair. So that issue, Board of Selectmen took that seriously and appointed a committee. Linda was on the committee, Mary was on the committee, and I was on it along with some town staff people, and we sat down and tried to determine what we should do about this issue. Well, at that point in time, Town Hall had reopened. There were nice new restrooms there. But Fossfield needed restrooms along with their new facility. So we had major discussion about that and felt that that should be the priority, and have those restrooms open on a regular basis. Try to encourage people to walk from the downtown area over to Harvest Market and to those establishments, and make use of all of our wonderful sidewalks and walkways throughout town, and put those restrooms at the new Foss Field facility. So that was one project, and that, as you all know, that's been complete. The second area that we thought really needed some attention was the dockside restrooms. So we came up with several different plans for that, and finally decided on one that will be attached to the existing dockside building. That project was to be done this year, but now has to be put off until this 2019, after the town warrant. There's more money being requested for those restrooms, but the committee felt very strongly that there are so many people in that area in the summer, boat traffic, pedestrians, and so those restrooms needed to be a priority. So I'm feeling very positive that that project is going to take place. Then the next area that we talked about was some toilets up in the, going up toward Nordic Skier, and there are porta potties there, or one porta potty. That sort of got down to the bottom of the list. But at some point in time, we will try and improve that area so that there are facilities up for all of those establishments. Then recently, the area in the railroad station, the nursery school moved out, and we have restrooms there that are heavily used, but now we have the opportunity to expand those. So that, I would say, is under discussion. Is that a fair way to put it? Okay. So stay tuned with the restrooms. But as long as I'm here, can I continue with a couple of things? The other thing that came out was that town government is not business friendly, and so the planning board has sort of been concerned about that for a number of years. And so each year we try to take a look at our zoning ordinance and try to look and make sure the zoning regulations are clear, and if they're not, we try to make them so that they're more understandable to the public. We, at the time, asked Rob Hausman to make himself more available to businesses. We sent a letter to all the real estate agencies, banks, and insurance companies, and said, if somebody comes in and wants to talk about a new business or expanding a business, please have them come to the planning office so that we can get people with an understanding of what they may or may not have to do at the beginning of the process. So that letter went out 2 or 3 years ago. I think now that Matt is here and his feet are firmly on the ground, that we probably should send that out again. There are a lot of new businesses. People probably forgot that the letter even went out. So that is something I was going to talk to the planning board about doing. The other thing that we did was, along with the EDC, we had what we call a lodging forum or a lodging seminar, and that came about because of the issue of hotels and the restriction of 50 rooms now in place on a hotel. There was a lot of discussion that possibly that cap should be lifted. So we did get everybody together who owned hotels and inns and motels and some of the summer establishments, and had a really, what I felt was a pretty productive discussion with those folks. But what I came away from that meeting with was that many of our lodging establishments are non-conforming, they're in residential zones, and those folks really didn't understand that they do have the ability within our zoning ordinance now to expand and improve their properties. So there was a pretty good communication that came out of that meeting from the planning board's perspective anyway. And then what we did last year was change the zoning ordinance to allow inns and hotels in the Bay Street Limited District and Wolfeboro Falls. So now a new inn or hotel could come in and be in more locations. So basically, those are my issues, and now turn it over to Matt.
Along with the restroom projects that we're undertaking, we also are looking at the Daka Expansion and repairs. I'm sure that some of you were at the public hearing, hopefully I'm not in the way here, at the public hearing that took place just about 1.5 years ago, I believe at this point, to consider some extensions to the town docks. And you'll see the extensions are sort of shown here at the ends of the existing docks. We had an excellent dock committee that worked with us to get an understanding of what the appropriate extensions would be. I think we have a lot of political will behind this project, but unfortunately, at the end of 2018, we received a cost estimate for the project that was substantially more than we had anticipated. So we're sort of taking a step back and devising a financial strategy to actually get this project done, because we understand it's critical for our downtown businesses and beyond. One thing I should also note that with this project, if you're not familiar with it, It also includes the realignment of the Mount Washington berth. That adds some substantial cost there as well, so that's another thing we're looking at doing. In addition, our existing bulkhead where the dockside restaurant is has some substantial issues based on the way that it was constructed, and we actually have to do some things to sort of fix the bones before we go about adding on more capacity here. But this is a high priority project for the town, so it's something that we're sort of looking at to really increase volume into the downtown. Kathy touched on a few of these, but I just want to touch on a few more. We have made some improvements for parking. The Chamber has done some excellent work to make information more available about what the parking restrictions or availability might be. We're also talking about through some of the master plan work as well that we're actually going to develop some more comprehensive parking maps that are available so that folks understand when they come into town where parking might be available in the downtown. So that's another thing that we're looking at. We've really tried to, through our design planning for projects like the Route 28 corridor study, you see a little diagram down here in the lower left, really try to incorporate business interests when we're going about these comprehensive planning efforts. We use a sort of a process called context-sensitive solutions. In the case of Pickering Corner, one of the things that we had to really factor in when looking at this was not only Brewster Academy, but also the two existing gas stations that we have around this intersection. So we're really trying to make sure that businesses are respected fully within our planning process because they're such critical assets to the community. And I'll get into a couple of these other items in just a second, but I did want to mention the master plan. Kathy, I don't want to sort of steal what you might have said, but we are probably the biggest project that we're working on right now, so big that sometimes I think I put it out of my mind because it's such a stressful project to work on, is that we're updating the community's comprehensive master plan. The master plan is really sort of the base, the foundation of our land use regulations and zoning ordinance, but we've sort of broadened the scope through this process to really look at other community-based projects that we want to work on for the next period of 10 years. So again, the focus is on land use regulation, but we're really looking at more comprehensive projects like our dock improvements, like these transportation projects that we want to commit the town to completing over that 10-year period of time. We've done quite a bit of mapping work as well, which has been really important. We have had a wayfinding sign committee that convened sort of in the 2015 range to deal with some wayfinding signage issues that we had for pedestrians in the downtown area. That committee is still meeting. We're trying to really devise a solution to some of those issues, and we haven't quite gotten there yet. But one of the great byproducts of that committee has been that we have been working on some kiosk mapping for the downtown area to really improve the kiosks that we have, the 3 existing kiosks we have at Dockside, the railroad station, and over at Fossfield as well. So we updated those maps, and we're looking for a better solution moving into 2019, but really the intent here is for visitors to inform them of where different resources are in the downtown area, including parking, bathrooms, as Kathy and others mentioned, the boat launch, restrooms, other entities that they may be attracted to in our downtown area. We want to make these kiosks really a feature within that downtown. One thing that the EDC has been working on, and I'm not sure if Kathy, you want to quickly talk about this as well, but the EDC has funded an update to some maps that we're working on in cooperation, I would say at this point, with the Wayfinding Sign Committee. We're doing sort of an artist rendition version of the map that I just showed you to sort of add some character to a lot of these great buildings that we have in our downtown area. And we hope that this, in combination with some of the other mapping that we've done, will really, as a package, work to help direct visitors and others to different entities within the community. So I think this is an important part of our mapping solution for our downtown area. Now, for something a bit new, the 2015 BR&D survey talked a lot about broadband connectivity. And I think there are really 2 ways to think about this, not just sort of your internet speed to your house, but also your internet speed to your business and to our cell phones as well. The anecdotal story that we're hearing quite a bit recently is that on July 4th weekend, which is obviously the biggest weekend for the town of Wolfeboro, we had some real issues with vendors being able to use things like squares on their iPads and even just operate their sort of their registers within their businesses. It's really unacceptable for us on our peak season to run into these telecommunications issues. So we're really looking closely at what we can do to improve the broadband landscape within the town of Wolfeboro. And you can see that the 2015 survey sort of led us in this direction. Businesses were clearly dissatisfied with energy costs, broadband speed, and broadband reliability. It's something that I think we can really affect change on. Obviously, it's an important part of, it's an important economic driver for the community. It's a business retention issue, but one thing that's not noted here that I think it's important to note is as we continue to attract people to our community, a lot of those people, I believe, will be telecommuting or something to that effect. Being able to have broadband to homes as well is going to be critical for our community moving forward. And the more that we can invest in that infrastructure, I think the more successful we'll be as a community. Because Wolfeboro offers such a high quality of life, but maybe not the access that other communities in New Hampshire do. So, as I just said, broadband, the why bother of it, it definitely drives economic activity. It also is important to note that utility costs were noted in the BRE as a significant concern. Through the master plan process, we've really reinvigorated, I would say, our energy committee. We're really thinking about some innovative things related to net metering and solar and other energy policies that the town and also potentially its residents might undertake moving forward. So we've really revitalized the energy behind that, no pun intended there, and we hope to do some good work moving forward. But those utility costs and broadband were critical. Wolfeboro's network infrastructure is poor in coverage, and that's not just in the wired infrastructure, but also in our cell infrastructure that really provides us the connectivity to Alan's cell phone, as he was mentioning before. That's a critical part of our economy here in town. And frankly, as this notes, we've been overlooked. We are a rural community. Much of New Hampshire's rural communities have been overlooked, but Wolfeboro particularly, I think, has some holes that really need to be fixed moving forward so that we can provide that cellular access and telecommunications access to our businesses. As I noted before, we're actually developing the first master plan energy chapter that we've ever had. And within that energy chapter and our public infrastructure chapter, we're going to address energy concerns and infrastructure concerns around broadband head on. We're going to set some real policy goals for the community over the next 10 years to ensure that we make some progress here. And to be clear, those were not goals within the 2007 master plan explicitly. It's something that's become a new concern, and it's something that came directly out of the BR&D. Again, we have an active energy committee that's championing a lot of this work. And we're really looking forward to making some big change here. One thing I want to note, though, before I move on, is that Wolfeboro has a huge advantage that I would argue that no other community in the state of New Hampshire has. And that is that because we are a municipal electric department, we have the advantage of owning our own utility infrastructure. When it comes to, you may have heard about this in the news, when it comes to 5G infrastructure, which is really the next frontier when it comes to wireless telecommunications, utility companies are going to be coming to us to get access to our poles so that they can implement 5G within our community. As a result, we're viewing our poles as an opportunity. And typically, a municipality would say it's a revenue opportunity because telecommunications companies will pay us. We're actually viewing it as an opportunity to give them an open door into our community so that we can be one of the more connected communities in the state of New Hampshire because we'll be able to offer this next generation wireless telecommunication. And again, it's because we have that municipal electric department and our own telephone pole asset that I think we can really make a stride here that no other community in the state of New Hampshire can. So it's a huge and exciting opportunity for us, and we're fortunate to have a lot of people in town as well who are very knowledgeable in this that I think can help us sort of navigate the pitfalls that other communities across the United States are dealing with. And one final thing I want to note, we have started some 5G testing and wireless telecommunications testing around the community. I'm going to note before I get into what this means that some of this data is incomplete, or the data are incomplete, but we're starting to get a sense of what the picture really looks like in town. Obviously, you can see the downtown area here. In the case of this AT&T coverage map, this is for cellular service. Blue is good, red is bad. And you can see that in the more rural portions of Wolfeboro, AT&T coverage is very limited. Fortunately, in the downtown area, we tend to be pretty well served, but you can see on Sewell Road, there are some serious holes there. And we expect that our visitors and the folks that are coming to Wolfeboro will have some expectations of connectivity. And we want to make sure that that's possible. So we are really looking at actively reaching out to these providers and working with them to improve the infrastructure that we have in the community. Another map here, in this case, the Wolfeboro is down here, sort of a larger map. Very similar in the sense that green is the good here and red is the bad. You can see that the same access issues exist here. North Wolfeboro tends to be not too well served, but you can see there is some service from other providers. This includes Verizon as well. But you can see that there are gaps, and we need to work on filling those gaps. Again, not just from an economic development perspective, but also from a simple public safety perspective. We want to ensure that our aging demographic here has access via their cell phone moving forward. So we need domain knowledge and leadership on not just these broadband issues, but also other planning issues as well. So please do not hesitate to come into my office or contact me. I hope that as I look around the room, I think I've talked to every single person in this room at one time or another. And please continue to sort of let me know what's happening, what challenges you're facing, so that we can address those in a policy way. It's not just in the zoning regulations. It's not just in our planning regulations. We can do other things to affect change in the community. I think that's one thing that's really come out of the BR&D. There's a lot of ways you can make difference here in a way that positively impacts business. So we started progress in 2018. We're continuing on that in 2019, but there's a lot more work to do, and we look forward to doing it alongside you. So thank you very much.
As a beginning, we did a citizen survey in 2016, and one of the things that came out of that was a statement by a good percent of the people who participated in this, is that the town should actively expand or promote existing businesses and attract more stores and shops. And so because of that, we do have an economic development chapter, and I think, Alan, you wanted to speak to some of the things that have come out of that, but the whole master plan project, I think, has brought together a lot of segments, different segments of the community and diverse groups, where we've had a really, and I think most of the time, pretty positive, sometimes heated exchanges about issues, but that's good, because we're coming together to make some really solid recommendations that you all will be hearing about, and hopefully, I'm saying May of 2019, because I think that's when we're going to try and have the public hearings on the master plan chapters. But the reason I wanted to bring that up is because of the focus on economic development, and a lot of that chapter is we're looking to the Economic Development Committee and saying, here are some recommendations, now go to it. And, come back and let's talk about these things. But the other thing that we're proposing is to really get somebody on staff that does economic development for the town in general. So.
Okay, I think with that, we sort of wanted to move into a question or comment period. And I think it's sort of an open forum. Is that correct? Absolutely. If anyone has a question or comment, we'll sort of direct it to the appropriate person. It was to talk about the fact that when we went through the comprehensive planning process for the Route 28 corridor, which at its tail includes the Pickering Corner intersection, we really tried to be sensitive to the business community, because we recognize that that area is really not just a gateway into our village core, I would say, but also really provides some critical assets from a business perspective when it comes to the gas stations and Brewster Academy as well that's there. So that's really what I was getting at there, Peter. But one other thing that I should mention, and it's fresh because we had a meeting of the Public Infrastructure Committee last night, actually, is that we are taking a very close look at the configuration of parking, pedestrian access, crosswalks in the downtown area. We recognize that there are some safety issues in that downtown area. And particularly in our case, we have very close proximity of our crosswalks to our parking spaces. So we're taking a hard look at, as a result of the master plan, actually potentially maybe reconfiguring some of that parking in the future, and really identifying whether or not we have adequate parking for the existing businesses and any potential businesses that might expand in the future. So that was really what I wanted to address there. When it comes to more lodging, we've done a couple different things. We obviously held the lodging forum. Subsequent to that, we made some permitted uses changes to really open it up to more B&Bs and inns as well in certain zones within the community, within some of our commercial zones. Ultimately, the planning board did find that they were not going to remove the 50-room cap, and I think that we found clearly through the study that was done by WEDCO that there is a need for increased lodging options in town, but I'm not sure if we're quite sure how to handle that problem just yet. I think that removing the cap is one thing we should continue to look at. I think it's an impediment that does exist, and I think that the planning board has looked very closely at it, but I don't think it should come off of the planning board's work plan. And I think we should also look at site suitability for lodging options. If we're really to have another entity within the community, do we have a site that could truly support that? And I think we need to take a close look at that. Hopefully that answered your question, Peter.
Except for,
Yep.
others, What is the current option for Pickering Corner?
So the proposed option for Pickering Corner is basically an improved no-build option. So we'd maintain what exists there. That's our preferred option that we've recommended to NHDOT. So that's the preferred option. We went through several public hearings on this, and really a lot of thought went into it, but ultimately we decided that it was important to maintain those two businesses that are there, but also important to make some pedestrian improvements and some vehicle safety improvements as well. And the way we'll do that is actually through more striping, increasing the curbing that exists there, and potentially widening in a few spots to create some more safe passage in the intersection. The project is scheduled for 2024. Yep.
Matt, we also talked about trying to lower the speed coming into that intersection.
Yep, we have and also on Route 28 to sort of towards the Alton line, we have some recommendations there as far as speed limit changes as well. Yeah, I would say, I think, impact fees. I think it's something we really need to, and I'm not just saying this, it's something we need to look very closely at. The impact fees were created in a time where there was a real fear about there was a real fear about the impact of the schools and the impact on the tax base. I think impact fees are something we should be looking at very regularly, and I think that it's something that we should look, especially take a hard look at right now, particularly when we recognize that we have sort of a missing middle housing problem here in Wolfeboro, and that impact fee creates a potential cost burden for something that's in the $200,000 to $300,000 range.
It's not a potential, it is.
A cost burden,
Like,
yeah.
it's not a potential
Yep.
burden. It's a burden for anyone that, the builders can't build houses under $350.
Right.
Because that extra $4 grand, $5 grand, and then you
Yep.
have to hook up fees and everything else, it's too much money.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's actually, it was on the planning board's 2018 work program. We didn't get as far into it as we would have liked, but it's at the forefront of our conversation right now, seriously. We recognize it's a potential impediment to getting more affordable housing here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
This might not be the right venue, but has there been more conversation about business owners parking on Main Street in the 4 months of summer?
Most of what changes for the better that have come with that have been business owners talking with their neighbors. And we here, I can promise you at the Chamber of Commerce office, when those conversations aren't productive, meaning if you're parking in front of your neighbor's business. And when I say you're parking, it means whoever is there working in that place of business for most of any given day. I think that's what your fellow business owners see and feel is having a negative impact. Oh my gosh, years ago it was a constant, and I'm sure others can have testimony to this as well, but just as an example, at the information center, it was a regular complaint that came to us. That has changed drastically. So absolutely there's been improvement, and even before the BR&D and many years ago now, but the town of Wolfeboro purchased a piece of property for the sole reason to build additional parking. They also moved some boat trailer parking out from the most convenient area. So there were those two steps the town of Wolfeboro took. The business owners talking with new employees that come in the peak seasons and asking their employees to park outside of the most convenient parking. And you can look at all over town, this is a issue. It's down in the immediate downtown area, but other areas as well. So this is just one piece that, as far as trying to encourage people to think about that in the peak season. You can see the statement that the Chamber of Commerce makes, and we just want to encourage people to not take those most convenient spaces. And there is, in these particular emails, there are links that bring you to the town ordinance of where the 2-hour parking limits are and where those options are for long-term parking. Because, for example, there are on South and North Main Street some areas that are long-term parking.
The Wolfeboro Trolley Company, of course, Trolley's been here for 30 years, and it was first came here by some directors of the Chamber of Commerce, my husband Dickie being one of them, and at that time, the thinking was that they would shuttle people downtown and move people around. 30 years later, we have some of the same problems that we had then. The Chamber's done a lot about educating people about not parking in front of your neighbor's business and them parking in front of yours, and every year there's an effort to get that done, and people will move out, and it helps some, but I don't think that going back and trying to go over and over that again is necessarily the approach to take. And I think that having a shuttle, I look at other resort areas where people who want to come in for the day and shop and dine, and they park, and there's a shuttle that takes them down that they know is going to take them back promptly, may be the answer to that. And so it may be actually be getting the visitors to have an easy way down, as well as people who are going to be here for the day. But a business person needs to be able to get back to their car. We know we have a bunch of real estate, a lot of real estate businesses downtown, and those are people that need to get to their car to go out and show properties or whatever. So they don't like to be too far away from their cars. And so some people, and I know a lot of people who walk from the parking lot, from the municipal parking lot downtown. I see them carrying their stuff every day, and there's a lot of businesses that work hard at that. I also see businesses that I know that have 2 or 3 trucks that are parked downtown all day long, and if they get a ticket, and when I've asked business owners about it, and they get a ticket, and they say, well, yeah, but we have to have them there because we got to do this or that, and you know, we just pay the tickets. Well, that doesn't help get people in there to be able to use it to go to other businesses. So I think that we need to start to look at another opportunity, and I also look at it that as the one attempt at moving people around town, and I believe in the business sector taking the lead on these sorts of things, so that when I'm out talking with businesses this year about the trolley and about our efforts for this season, I'm going to be asking people about shuttles and what they think it would be. And maybe we need to get a little mini Molly running, and I'm talking about a van type thing that could help support that. So I think that, you know, take this opportunity to say, start thinking about it, because I think that's maybe the direction to go in, and I'm willing to listen and try to figure out how we can make that work and keep it affordable and get our visitors down there and people out. So that artwork was done by Greg Hopkins, and it is the artwork that belongs to the Wolfeboro Trolley Company, which we are very happy to extend the use of to the town of Wolfeboro. The good thing about it is the watercolor that's the original artwork only has the roads on it. And I'm sorry Peter left, because there's actually a mistake that we then repeated, because we went back to do this one. And this is a draft. It is conceptual. We took everything off it that relates to the trolley, because everything that's on there for the trolley or any of these buildings can go on and off. This road does not exist and should not be here, and has actually been removed from the the trolley map last year. But all the trolley information's off there. A whole lot more buildings have gone on. We spent a little bit of money doing that, and now our intentions really are, it'll be up to the EDC what they decide to do, but we wanted you folks to have a chance to look at it today, to maybe pass it on to the Wayfinding committee. And I know some of the members, it's been a pet project of Kathy Barnett and myself. We're the ones down there working with a kiosk this summer, and that's where it originated. So we were talking about it, and we're trying to move forward with that. So Dan, your question?
I guess my first comment is that it's really nice. I've spent 30 years in the graphic arts business, and you see a lot of stuff, you know. Someone took the time to do a great job. I could see that as a wayfinding sign where they have a red arrow, you were here. You were here. So if you're at Foss Field, it shows that on the map. If you're at the dockside, you see that on the map. And it helps people find it. So the file's graded in such a way that you're saying you can take buildings off.
Yeah. The buildings are, in fact, we've added quite a few. Kathy and I drove the streets, and we came up with 200 buildings. That's not businesses. That's buildings, because some buildings have several businesses in them. And we've added 50 more to it than were there on the original map that we started, plus all the ones that we had. And so, yes, it is. And every one of those buildings, he goes out and he draws. If I take pictures, but then he still tends to have to go out and look at them. And then once we get the drawings, we scan them, we put them in, and then graphic artist has to color the buildings in. So, and the artist that has done it in the past, who's been working for us, worked diligently on this. So we put, there's lots more work to do with it, but at this point, no, it doesn't make sense for either me or the town to spend any more money on it unless they want it to be used, so.
How much does it cost to have a building?
About $10. Well, no, it's probably twice that. $10 to have it drawn, as that's what he figured out about the time, and then it's got to be at least more to get it placed. I haven't figured that out.
I would think any property owner in town would be more than willing to come up with 40 or 50 bucks to be quoted off that.
That would,
And I think,
I don't think I am, I can't quite.
No, you're not there yet. There's a lot of people who aren't there yet. But so we tried to start with the downtown core and then move out. So, but the point is to have every business that's within the perimeters of this. And Elena Alvey's not here tonight. She wants to live beyond it in the worst way, so I don't know quite how we're going to do that. But
One of the great things I got when I bought the lake was this wonderful thing called Meredith Map. And we do it every year, and it's kind of a challenge here. You gotta sell a whole lot of little itty bitty yet. But they have two sides to the map. One is a broader image of the community, and that would probably be my comment to you with the map person, is that the flip side of this map should probably have Alton and Southern Borough and Ossipee and Wolfeboro at the center. And that would allow you to sell more advertising and...
that's expansive, Dan. You think great, Dan. You're right, it probably could be.
Well, it's not, it
Probably could be, yeah.
The second slide I had, the question was the AT&T map slide. Can
Sure.
you go to that one?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yep,
When you drive out back around Lake Wentworth,
yep.
you see the town line there from Brookfield. Are those blue dots there, poles that Wolfeboro Electric owns
No.
in Brookfield?
No, so these, Dan, are you referring to these right here?
You see those, you're right. You keep coming down right there, the Brookfield town line.
Yeah.
You come into Brookfield.
No, so yeah, let me explain. The way that these data were developed is that these were actually police cruisers that were driving.
Those aren't poles.
These are not polls. These are individual data points where they collected basically a service test, and it looks like they looped around here and came back into Wolfeboro up here.
Right, it looks like they went down the
Yep.
Lyford Road and came back.
Yeah. Yep.
I live in that loop.
Okay. Yeah. So that's exactly what they did.
Get people from our phone company to return my phone calls and just say, we can't provide you with phone service. And I can see the telephone pole outside my house, telephone line. And they're like, no, we can't provide it to you. And for 6 months, I've been calling people and whoever the new people are.
Yeah. So this doesn't mean that you have a pole that provides a certain service. It's just it's a cellular data indicator.
I think the town of Brookfield would be very interested in joining and partnering somehow with the town of Wolfeboro on not only cooperative electric, but cooperative internet. I think we're kind of stuck out there in no man's land. Everything we do is in Brookfield. Our kids go to school in Wolfeboro, we use the Wolfeboro Library, the Wolfeboro Rec stuff. Brookfield is like this suburb. And we have no service from the big provider, so I don't think there'd be a lot of huge support for abandoning.
I'd like to thank the committee because although you all worked on a lot of these things and you have seen pieces that come together, I'm not sure if you are aware of the reverberations. And I've been working for about 20 months now on a project that came through WEDCO. It's called Explore Moose Mountains. And because of the BR&D, if I said that right, study, they realized when WEDCO covers 13 different towns. 7 of those towns have come together for a group called Explore Moose Mountains. And their whole purpose, long before they started anything 20 months ago, was to find out how they could get the word out better about Wolfeboro, Wakefield, New Durham, Milton, Middleton, Farmington, and Brookfield. So those 7 towns in the Moose Mountain Range. And they wanted to find a way to promote an area that was, there's not much that anybody talks about because yes, there was the Laker at that time and there was the Granite State News, but there was no newspaper that covered most of those towns beyond Wolfeboro. They didn't have a radio station. They didn't have a TV station. And yet, it's an undersung region. And so because of 2014, they were starting their meetings in these different towns, and among the things that they realized because of this study was that the digital footprint needed to be improved. And so they started a website called Explore Moose Mountains, and in May of 2017, we started a Facebook page because it was and is the most popular social media site. And since May of 2017, 1.89 million Facebook feeds have been reached with posts about this area. Our largest segment of members or fans are from Wolfeboro. An example, little story. There was a business that was started in July of this year, All Seasons Maintenance. They do the little jobs that no one else does. They only put out the word on the Moose Facebook page, and later on they joined the Wolfeboro, I think it was the community page or community uncensored page. They have been going gangbusters. They're at the point, what is this, 6 months after starting, where they're about to they're considering bringing on another employee. And it's because of what they've been able to do through those pages. We're not the be-all and end-all, but we're another piece, an organic piece of promotion for our area. And probably the committee never would have thought about it if this study hadn't been done and these recommendations hadn't been paid attention to. And so please consider learning more about us. The Wolfeboro Economic Development Committee has invited us to talk about what we're doing and how to get involved at the February 19th meeting. I believe that's at 8 a.m. at the town hall.
Question, do I talk to Department of Transportation, or do I talk to selectmen? Trotting track tees into Route 28, and once a month somebody misses the sign and they go into the ditch on the other side.
Yeah.
It wakes me up.
Yeah. That's scary.
Often I'm out there
Yeah.
before the police department.
Okay.
Because the road curves and the stop sign is out of view.
Yeah.
It's not always a drunk driver. It's hunters. It's, people coming home late.
Yep.
So maybe a few of those scored marks to alert people that the stop sign is coming.
Yeah.
But who do I bring that?
So yeah, and I hate to direct you to another person other than me, but I would start with Dave Ford, and he'll be able to tell you who the appropriate party is, and it may be the town of Wolfeboro, depending on where exactly you're talking about. But I would start with Dave, because he also has excellent connections to the Department of Transportation if it does become an issue that's the state level. So I would do that, because it sounds scary, and we don't want that to happen, obviously, so that's a good place to start. Anything you think we should be doing moving forward?
Just keep going.
Just keep going.
Every year they do the Best of New Hampshire,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we no store in Wolfeboro or business in Wolfeboro, to my knowledge. Oh, yeah.
North
That's
Skier,
right.
okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, do you have to be nominated to that, or apply to that, or how does that
No,
work?
what it is, it's strictly a vote.
Okay.
It used to be that you had to have gotten a certain number of votes to be on the ballot for the next year.
Okay.
They changed that requirement last year. So it strictly is just
So give us an example.
So they put out a survey. So you put out a survey, and it's, when Nordic Skier won, it was what's the best bike ski shop?
Okay.
Best workshop.
Right.
In New Hampshire, what's the best kitchen store?
So is it
What's
the
best
number of
pet
votes?
store? Yes, it's
the
the
top
top
of
of
their-
their, right, it's the
Got you.
total
Okay.
popularity vote.
We just don't pay attention.
So how does Stuart?
Yeah, well, that's got some clutter too.
It
so-
does.
Yeah.
Me and you sitting there going, I like, okay.
But the way to get the word out is particularly through social media. And, if I share it on the Moose, you should see it and share it someplace else. That, vote for so-and-so, vote for such and such. Or just go on and find the ones that you love. But anything with social media, you want to make sure that you are liking, commenting, and sharing. Because then the algorithms go through and say, oh yeah, we should push this out because it's a popularity contest.
Yep.
So,
That is really
It would be-
the popularity.
absolutely.
It would be great to have a business in Wolfeboro.
Yeah, or two or
Another
three.
one,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I would just like to ask that the title of this meeting and the group that's represented is called the Business Retention and Expansion Program Update, but it's all about the Business Expansion, Retention and Expansion Program. Where are we supposed to expand to?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think that's exactly why the update of our master plan is timely, because I think that we're recognizing that the demand that we may have for business in the community doesn't necessarily align with the land availability that we need to do it. So I think that the planning board will be taking a very close look at our existing zoning and seeing if there might be opportunity to potentially change that so that we do have more land available, Steve, to do some expansion, because I would agree that and non-conforming uses are a great example that you and I have talked about many times. That's a place where we need to do some work, because we recognize that, or my feeling is personally, that the most valuable businesses here in the town are the ones that are already here. They're not the ones that we should be spending our time attracting outside the community. We need to do whatever we can to make sure that the ones that are here can really expand and continue to contribute to the community. And I think that really starts with zoning. And I don't want that to sound like a cheap answer. I really believe that's the truth. The zoning has to allow them to be able to do some expansion. And I think the planning board will be taking a close look at that over the next year.
Right, and we do have a lot of infill
Yep.
development opportunities. Why don't you explain to folks?
Yeah, so infill development is huge within sort of our commercial core, because a lot of our commercial core, and what I'm referring to there is sort of the downtown core, right in our downtown, Bay Street, and also Wolfeboro Falls, that area. Those are sort of that's our commercial core. Many of those parcels are already developed to the maximum extent that they're really allowed to right now, but I think we can look at opportunities to potentially see more what we call infill development in that core area by changing some zoning to allow more lot coverage, but also do some other good things for the environment as well. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that we need to see large expansion in North Wolfeboro or other sections of Wolfeboro that are more rural, but I think there's more we can do to make land available in sort of the existing developed area within the community. And obviously, as part of the master plan, we've talked about sort of the Pine Hill Road area, Filter Bed Road area as a potential opportunity moving forward with some comprehensive planning to maybe have some brand new development opportunity there, not necessarily infill development. Did I answer your question, Steve?
He answered it, except there doesn't seem to be any place that we're allowed to even discuss expansion in terms of away from the core business district.
Okay.
We can continue to stuff more businesses.
I would just like to point out the CRZ zones, if I get that right. I'm not good with these fancy acronyms that they use for those. It might be looking at something in terms of coming to Wolfeboro and having a business, that there are some tax incentives. If you would touch on those areas, Matt, and point out the properties that are for sale in those areas and the need.
Yeah, sure. So we do have economic revitalization zones. I would say that one of those that probably applies to what Steve is asking is the Wolfeboro Business Park. We have some existing undeveloped parcels that are currently within an economic revitalization zone, and that ERZ actually gives a tax incentive to businesses that develop there. But the other ERZ is actually in our downtown area, so it's within that commercial core, and there is a lot of development there already. But parcels like the Citizen Bank parcel present a huge opportunity potentially moving forward for another use that could be a very, a really productive and great community use there, whatever it is. So I think we should do whatever we can to make sure that we're marketing those parcels effectively as a town when we have people come in to talk to us about them. But I think, I know what the core of your question is, Steve, and it's really, when it comes to peripheral development, how do we allow development in those areas? I don't know the answer right now. I don't. And I don't know where those areas are. We all know there's been significant discussion about sort of the Center Street Route 28 corridor. There's some sensitivity there, as we all know. But the town did take a progressive step by changing the zoning around sort of the intersection of 109 and Route 28, and I think there's more discussion that could be had there if we can do that development in a way that's sensitive to the valuable natural resources that are around it. So I think it's possible, but I wouldn't suggest that we have commercial development in every portion of town, but I think there are some other areas that we should be looking at. That answer may not have been satisfying.
No, you can tell by his eyes.
We don't see that.
But
Those people who attended the planning board meeting last
Yep.
week, when they were talking about potential development in the Filter Bed Road area out to 109A, had to be just a little bit depressed about the response there, because the Filter Bed Road area has been held up as a potential source for expansion. We're talking about business expansion. And it was quite evident that there was nobody in the town, nor on the planning board, who would stand up for any type of expansion in that area. And yet that was the area that has been offered on in at least 2 or 3 different committees as a potential for expansion. And that was totally shot down. Now, you can say that it was because of poor language that presenters had and so forth, but the bottom line is that it wasn't a positive step in the direction for a business expansion in that area that really has been held out as the only other area for potential expansion.
Right.
That's all.
No, I think that's.
But I did say at that meeting that I thought the planning board needed to look at that area, and I hope that that's why I'm eager to get this master plan out to a public hearing so that we can start working on things. And what I said was that maybe we needed to be thinking of a different type of zone that would meet the needs of whatever people in that area would like to see happen. And there's nothing saying that we can't create a different zone. I think people were concerned about some of the uses in the Pine Hill district, and that kind of was a red flag for people. Well, we can deal with that issue also. So I thought that I did leave the door open, and part of the problem was that some folks didn't realize that this was coming up, and I think they were surprised by it and had a lot of chance for dialogue. So.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is not off the table for me, at least, in working with the planning board. I mean, we have talked about it. We are committed to looking at it. I really think it is the area. I think that the way that it came forward wasn't necessarily the best fit, right? And I think that's why ultimately the planning board didn't support it.
But it was a start.
Yeah,
and it's going to be on the ballot.
And frankly, despite what the result of the meeting was, I think that petition warrant articles always start an important conversation about zoning, because usually they aren't perfect, but it gets the planning board thinking about, how should we react to this? Maybe we should be looking at this issue next year. And I think because it's going to come out of the master plan, and frankly, it's going to be one of the few specific zoning recommendations that may come out of it. It's going to be on the action plan, for next year or the year beyond. I don't know exactly when, but it really may be one of the only substantial land use specific recommendations that comes out of that plan. So I don't want you to feel like it's come off the table. I just think the package that came forward and maybe wasn't the best possible package. So that's.
Is the planning board giving any consideration to limiting street level occupancy to retail shops only?
I don't think that
We talked about that,
Yeah.
and we had that on our work plan a number of years ago, and really decided not to move forward with it.
I think it's something again, I hate to sort of give a cliche answer here. It's something you should always be looking at, though, because when you're looking at business vacancy in the downtown, combined with the demand for, whether it be condo or condoized rental, whatever it may be, I think you may find that there's a change in need where you have either very high or very low vacancy rates, and you have a property owner that wants to change the use of the property. I think the planning board should always be looking at that. So, Peter, I think it could change, but it's not on the planning board's work plan right now.
I probably still have my survey that I did. But
Okay, I'm sure you did, Kathy. Believe it.
Any other questions?
Suggestions, comments, ideas?
No, I'm all set.
It's after 7 o'clock. I want to thank you all again for coming. I had the fortune to be on the Special Events Committee with Linda and a few other folks. And it was a lot of fun. And what impressed me was the fact that 1,000 people came to this event at various points in time. Get to see Wolfeboro. One of the events was, it was lasagna. What a spaghetti. Anyway, it was, and I arranged for an accordionist to play the music while people were dining and enjoy themselves. And I must tell you, I'm not an aficionado of music, far from it. But I tell you, that whole crowd was enthralled with him. I never saw a person who, I see very few people who can play the accordion, but if he sits down at the table, he's playing the accordion and talking to you about the Red Sox or something else. It's unbelievable. Anyway, he had been here before, and somehow I found him, and he came. Folks at the church had a great time. I'd like to be able to expand that into something bigger for everybody. In any event, as a conclusion to this evening, here's a quote from Gary Swidzinski. He said, "I had the most wonderful time and thank you for having me. I used to play first night in your town each year, but I thought everyone just forgot about me. It was so nice seeing familiar faces and interacting with everybody. I love it because it feels like home. Wolfeboro, to me, is what America used to be and should be. An accordionist can't ask for a better venue or town. I'm so honored to have been a part of that event." And that sums it up as far as I'm concerned. In any event, we all had a great time. Thank you all for coming. I think we all learned something. A lot of things, probably, or hopefully, and we'll get some more done. So, in answer to the question, how are we doing? I think we're doing okay.